Hey, shh. Calm down. The show is about to start. Reese on the radio. Turn it up. Turn it up loud. Turn it up loud.
It's like a dream come true.
Turn on your radio. Reese is on the radio.
Yo, let's get it.
Due to the nature of this program, discretion does not exist. It's Reese on the radio. Right now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Yeah! What's going on, all you scallywags? It's Tuesday. Oh, just Tuesday. It's Reese on the radio. Coming to you live on WTIC News Talk 1080. Welcome to the program. And I cannot believe that we have to have this conversation again. I've done it too many times. As I'm thinking about it today as the opening monologue, I'm going, do I have to do this again? Apparently so. Because in some ways it's going to sound like I'm scolding you, especially my callers. Because you're caught in this trap that is solely expressed by the news media critiquing the news media, as if to give the impression that they are looking out for you. This is an opportunity to beat up on each other. It is. What am I talking about? This constant refrain. The news media is not covering the story. The news media has gone completely silent on this, that, on the third. Latest case is over Iryna Zarutska. That's how I pronounce her name. Iryna, that's her name. Iryna Zarutska. That young lady who was murdered in Charlotte, North Carolina. And everyone is talking about or making the basis of their conversation what media outlets aren't covering it. As if that matters. It is a dying medium, folks. It is. It just is. It doesn't matter that NBC or CBS or ABC, it doesn't matter that the Hartford Courant or, Connecticut Mirror or whomever, it doesn't matter that site or that news outlet covers it. It never mattered. At least not as of late. People no longer get their news from those places because they cannot trust them. And they will never trust them again. Now, we do have some outliers, but I got to be honest with you. The folks who really trust CNN, the folks who really trust MSNBC, let's think about this for a moment. Do their opinions really matter? In the grand scheme of things, do their opinions really matter? We know that they are unarmed. I want you to think about this. I want you to be pragmatic here. Think about the person who watches MSNBC and CNN. And then think about getting into a verbal battle with that individual. Who is armed to the teeth and who is sitting there like a sitting duck? Huh? The MSNBC viewer, the CNN viewer. You know that they are not armed with the facts. You know that they are going to resort into calling you names and screaming and stomping off in a huff like a toddler. Why would you be beefing that NBC and CNN are not covering the stories that you know about? You are informed, aren't you? But perhaps I'm missing something. Perhaps deep down inside, you want them to be informed. That you are desperate for them to be armed with the facts. Or you just want to pile on. You have to think about where you stand here. Now, I don't know how long you've listened to this show. For those of you who've listened for a long time, I applaud you. I love you for being here. But some of you, just might be driving by, checking out the program. So let me hip you to the jive, as I like to say. I never cover any story based upon who's not covering it. I know who isn't. I'm well aware of it. I don't rely on them to cover it. People always bring it to my attention. Hey, man, you notice that such and such is not talking about this, such and such is not talking about that. I already know they're not going to cover it. I already know that it isn't relevant to them. I already know why they can't cover it in many cases. I've been on the phone with these people at the networks who have told me over and over again why they can't cover certain news stories or why the newsroom doesn't find it important. That sometimes it's based on one guy. It's not even a consensus of folks in the newsroom. One guy who will tell a bevy of reporters, yeah, I don't think that's important to the story. Yeah, I don't think that's important to people in this part of the town. No one cares what happens there. Just that one guy. What does it matter that CNN wouldn't cover this? What? Because it exposes their bias? As opposed to what? As opposed to what? Are we really driving our heads into a brick wall about the fact that they would not cover a mentally unstable black man stabbing a white woman, a Ukrainian refugee, in the neck on a busy light rail in a major city? You're stunned about that? How many other cases have you not seen people cover in the news media? There are hundreds, if not thousands, that they never cover. Every day we're talking about it. In fact, it's become so rampant, you've forgotten the names of the people that they ignored. You remember all of the people who were falsely martyred because those news outlets always talk about it. It's almost like any other day, you folks would never ever watch MSNBC or CNN. But when the story was about Michael Brown, you watched those networks. When the story was about Trayvon Martin, you watched those networks. You wouldn't watch them in any other circumstances. But you went over there to go watch them lie about certain stories. Why? So you could arm yourself to the teeth so you could get back and complain. Why? Why? I'd like to offer up a little bit of advice on all of this. One, let's stop with the complaining. Let's just stop there. Let's just not do it. Our job is to find solutions. That's always been our job. Our job is to hold the people who can do something accountable. It does not matter if WTNH or WFSB or NBC Connecticut cover the story. There are a lot of people in the world who actually are motivated by what the news is talking about. But now you know that is no longer an ally to you or anybody else. So that's why you have to acclimate. You have to adjust fire. That's how that works. You have to get the attention where the attention is and then work from that. They don't want to cover these stories. And when they do, as Brian Stelter did on CNN, who did he go after? A woman was murdered just before 10 o'clock on a light rail, sitting in front of a man that she didn't know in a hoodie who, for no reason, she didn't even look back at him, got up and stabbed her. Murdered her right there. And the people who were forced to report it, I want you to think about this. CNN, who was forced to report it because the president of the United States covered it, because they cover everything that comes out of the man's mouth. Think about that now. Think about that. They didn't cover it. They didn't want to cover it until the president of the United States covered it. And then when they did, they found a way to admonish others who were critical of the news media not covering it. They made no comment about the murderer. They offered no words to the family who lost their family member, to the friends that lost the young lady who was just working at a pizza shop. They offered nothing. Only thing they offered was commentary about Elon Musk and Charlie Kirk, and about how commentators online were spewing racist commentary. They didn't want to cover it. They had no interest in it. Now, I'm of the ilk that says this. If you don't want me, fine. I'll keep moving. But it sounds like begging when I hear these people talking about how the mainstream news media aren't covering the stories that matter to you. You have to support the businesses that actually cater to you. That's the way we've done it for a long time. Why did Target lose $10 billion? Why did Bud Light go under? Well, it didn't go under, but you know what I mean. Why did that happen? Why did Chick-fil-A survive? Why did businesses that rejected you lose money, and the ones that you supported flourished? Why? Because you paid attention to the people who cared about you. That's all you need to do. There comes a time in our lives when we have to actually start recognizing people for who they are, and also accepting them for who they are. This young lady's murder is a horrible story. But it's a horrible story for reasons beyond the fact that this guy was a repeat criminal who was just let out with no cash bail. There are deeper parts of this story that people haven't even acknowledged yet. I'd like to run through a couple of them before we go to break. And I want people to understand that what I'm paying attention to is the nuance. This is the thing, or these are the things, I should say, that we should be paying attention to. That should outrage you. And the more we bring attention to it, people will start to realize, damn, didn't see it that way. This young woman, Iryna Zarutska, came to the United States from war-torn Ukraine in 2022. She got in the country. She got a job at a pizzeria. She worked that job, and at just before 10 o'clock at night in Charlotte, North Carolina, she got on a light rail. She could have sat anywhere on that light rail. A new refugee, immigrant to the United States. At night, she sat in front of a 6'3" black male with a hoodie on. She didn't even think about it. She did not look around. She was not curious or apprehensive about where she was going to sit. It was like she had done it every day this year. She got on the light rail. and went to the first open seat she found. She never looked behind her or anything. She wasn't even suspicious. She felt safe. As much as we talk about racial tension in this country, I want you to think about this. A young white girl in 2025, with all of the animus, the racial animus in this country, with all of the so-called perception of us as a country, that newcomer to our country, 3 years in, sat on a light rail just anywhere and got on her phone and just went on about her evening and died. And the fact that anybody is having a conversation about race and not paying attention to that small detail is astonishing to me. Because that's what I saw when I saw her walk onto that light rail. I watched her body movement. I watched her sit in that chair. She never even turned around to look suspiciously at the man behind her. She did not feel uncomfortable. If there was anyone who wasn't the racist, one that wasn't fearful of the United States, who felt safe in this country after living in Ukraine, it was her. So when people are talking about how she should have had to keep her head on a swivel, be more careful, they're forgetting that small little detail. She was in Ukraine all of her life, here 3 years, and she felt safer here than she did in her own country. That says a hell of a lot about us. It says a hell of a lot about our reputation. Don't let the news media ruin that, and don't let that killer do it either. It's real simple if you step back and look at the whole picture. We'll take a break. I want to talk a little bit more about this news media and why no one should care who covers what. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC NewsTalk 1080.
Listen to WTIC NewsTalk 1080 on the free Odyssey app. Download and like WTIC today for alerts on special programming.
You know, if you watch the show online at all of the various locations, we're on X and on YouTube, not on my main YouTube page, but on my Reese on the radio page on Facebook. You can find us as well as YouTube. So if you're watching that, you probably see a woman to my right on the screen. That young lady is Dakara Thompson. And why I'm putting up her picture is because of a comment or question that was put on the YouTube chat room. If you're just joining us, I was talking about the interest or lack thereof in Iryna Zarutska's death. This is the Ukrainian immigrant young lady who was stabbed 3 times by a man who had been arrested at a rap sheet of 14 arrests and was let out in no cash bail in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I was talking about how no one should care that the news media has no interest in the story and had to be forced to even bring it up. And when they did, they went after people who were outraged at the fact that the story wasn't covered. Brian Stelter went so far as on CNN to say that all the comments online, especially X, were all rooted in racism. And what was he calling racism? The obvious. No one cared because the man who killed Iryna was black and she was white. Even though we're supposed to care about refugees coming into the country, she didn't fit the mold. The Biden administration and Democrats fought so hard for Ukrainians to be brought into the country, to be brought out of harm's way from Putin's, malicious dictatorial act of attacking Ukraine. And the woman got here, got a job, been here for 3 years, and gets murdered, and no one even cared. And they called anyone talking about it racist. So to answer the question, which was this, Reese, her murder was horrific. But do you think there would have been any story had she been black? What about the innocent black kids killed as a result of gang violence? All murders are horrific. They are. But to answer that question, I thought I'd mention Dakara Thompson. Now, again, you don't have to rely on any other news media to cover the story. You're in the right place. Why is Dakara's story important? Well, to give you an example, Dakara is a black woman, was a black young woman, roughly about the same age as Iryna. And she was murdered by a Guatemalan immigrant in the country illegally. What that immigrant did to Dakara is unspeakable. And no one has even bothered to talk about it. According to court documents and police investigations, Dakara Thompson, a 19-year-old from Prince George's County, Maryland, was murdered and her body was thrown over a bridge by her accused killer, Hugo Hernandez Mendez. Thompson was reported missing on August 23rd this year. After leaving her father's home in Lanham the previous night to get gas, surveillance footage showed her entering a black SUV driven by Hernandez Mendez around 3 a.m. on August 23rd near a Family Dollar in Langley Park. Investigators believe that he killed her in his bedroom in Bowie. He drove her body 7 miles to a bridge over the South River on U.S. Route 30. Threw her body over there. Did you see the story anywhere? Now, I want you to understand the backdrop here. What did we hear over the last 5, maybe 10 years? That when the missing person is a blonde white woman, the news media goes nuts. And the news media sought to change that. In fact, they even changed Amber Alerts to Ebony Alerts so that they could give priority to missing black children. They made all of these changes. Remember, we couldn't call the monkeypox the monkeypox. Now we call it the M-pox. Why? Because some bigot at the CDC thinks that someone might confuse monkeys with African Americans. That's why it's called the M-pox. Don't believe me? Go look that up. Don't be mad at me. But Dakara here was thrown over a bridge, a la Time to Kill, starring Samuel L. Jackson and Matthew McConaughey. An outrageous crime. Were they concerned at CNN that people on X might say something racist about her death or the silence, obvious silence about her murder from mainstream news media? No, they didn't touch it because, as I've said on this program before, and I keep trying to explain it, keep poo-pooing it and dismissing it, it's called the totem pole of oppression for a reason. And where you line up on that totem pole is where you end up in the news cycle. The top of that totem pole is gay, trans, person of color. That's top tier. And then work your way down. And unfortunately, Dakara Thompson here falls under illegal immigrant. That's why the mainstream news media isn't covering it. That's the reason why. So when you ask that question, I mean, all of it is right in front of you. And again, I don't rely on them. I don't rely on them to do what they've never done. Didn't you find it odd that yesterday here was one of the only places that reported that Darian Johnson, the kid who was the best friend of Michael Brown, was shot and killed in Ferguson, Missouri, a mile from where Michael Brown died? Where was that headline anywhere? Why? This is the guy who started Hands Up, Don't Shoot. They ignored the one witness to the martyr Michael Brown's death. Murdered in the street. No media coverage. Do you understand that? That's like Judas getting killed in the news media going, nothing. It's insane. But I said, don't rely on them. You can't. Don't complain about them. It's a ridiculous argument. You're never going to get that out of it. They have an agenda. That's what they're here for. But back on that front, looking at the numbers over the last year, 12 months, exactly 12 months, September to September. I looked at these numbers. So I'm going over Fox News, and let me see, from September, a year ago, average viewers, 2.5 mil. MSNBC, 1.4. CNN, 0.85. That means about 850,000. I went over some other numbers. These were important. Around the election, Fox News had a 10% jump in its ratings in October. MSNBC had a 1% decline. CNN, 2% decline a month before the election. In November of 2024, during the election, compared to the month before, Fox News had a 16% jump. MSNBC, 22% decline from the month before. 1% to 22% in an election month. A general election month. 22% they lost of their audience. CNN, minus 13 from the month before. They went from minus 2% to minus 13. You think that's bad? MSNBC, 48% in December. The same for CNN. No one cared. No one listened to them. They are obsolete. The overall net change from September 2004 to August of 2025, Fox News lost just 8% of all of its viewers. MSNBC, minus 44. CNN, minus 48. Why would you care that they cover the story? No one's watching them. You want them to report on a story no one's going to see? No one is watching them. You know, it's like being concerned about the government-run supermarket in Kansas City and being compared about their prices, saying that it's too expensive there. No one shops there. It's the dumbest thing to be annoyed about. And I think that there's been this constant theme. Fox News is absolutely guilty of it, by the way, by constantly talking about it. I mean, they are the news media. I mean, they're the front runners. But they keep talking about the mainstream media like they're not a part of it. They are. They are the mainstream. In fact, they're the only. They're the only. I mean, they are the champions in the market. Some of their ratings do better than nightly news on the basic case, on the basic channels, ABC, NBC, and CNN. They run rival to those shows. So you're caring about nothing. It's a waste, all of it. So you know about the story, and trust me when I tell you, the way in which people get their news media today or get their news information today, they don't rely on television. They're getting it right there in the palm of their hands. They all know. I think there was a study not so long ago that says that right now X is the primary place where most people get their news every day. Sometimes they go to mainstream media just to see if they've caught up. Online news, that's where it is. This medium right now, talk radio, it still flourishes. Doesn't do great, but it still works. We'll come back. More news, more views. We'll read some of your comments in the chat rooms when we return. It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
It's Reese on the radio on NewsTalk 1080 WTIC.
We're back. AT says that the conservatives on Fox felt that there was little coverage of this murder because it was a black man killing a white woman. And if the reverse had happened, it would have been a major story. Well, again, are you suggesting that there is no evidence of that? Because I can literally go down the line, as I've already mentioned in plenty of cases, where the news media, I think it was a report yesterday that said they went online to search Iryna's death online and search George Floyd. And George Floyd had 93 million hits in search engines, right? So, and again, what have we found out about every one of the individuals who have been martyred, excuse me, in these cases where there have been a suspicious death, according to the news media, right? Because they call it, suspicious or concerning. So we can start from the beginning of the so-called BLM movement. Trayvon Martin. We were under the impression that George Zimmerman just blasted the kid. Blow! Walking around through the neighborhood. Then we found out in trial from a witness in an apartment, came outside, saw the event, saw Trayvon Martin on top of George Zimmerman, straddling him, grounding and pounding. His words. Grounding and pounding his face like an MMA fighter. And then watched the shooting take place. None of you knew that, but beforehand, what were you doing? You were losing your ever-loving minds. The police told him not to follow. No, they did not. It was a 911 dispatcher who said, don't follow. And they have absolutely no authority to tell anybody what to do. Because if they were to give instructions and you followed them and you ended up being harmed, they would be held liable. That's why they have no jurisdiction. Didn't know that? That's why you come here. But we found out that Trayvon Martin wasn't some innocent kid who was just walking down the road. When we got the details of what happened, then people backed off. I notice you're not talking about him anymore. T-shirts are gone. Nobody's selling them like hotcakes. You've all but forgotten about his mother, who, by the way, shipped him off because he was a kid who was so troubled he was stealing women's jewelry and getting suspended, that he had to be shipped off to his father. What happened to Eric Garner? Well, Eric Garner was a big story until we found out that Andrew Cuomo's cracked down on Lucy's cigarettes. And when they found out that it was a police sergeant who told her employee to take him down, and that police sergeant on the scene in Staten Island turned out to be a black woman who told them to arrest Eric Garner. That story all but disappeared, didn't it? Yeah, it did. And of course, we get the Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot. Turns out it was false, even though they had a lying coroner come forward and say that none of that happened. Changed the whole dynamic of that story, didn't it? Where are all the Michael Brown T-shirts? All gone. George Floyd will be next. That case will be coming up soon. So when people can call it whatever they want, they could be upset about it, but we know what the drill is. This was not one of those mistaken stories that everybody got wrong. We saw what happened. Everybody saw it. Not witness testimony. Michael Brown's story turned out to be a farce because everybody was in on it. Even the people who originally lied to police, saying that they saw him with his hands up and said, don't shoot. But then when the Justice Department showed up with Eric Garner, they all showed up with lawyers saying, I lied. It's all insane, but, But to answer your question, AT's in the chat room talking about it to relitigate Martin, which shows, again, AT, this is how sad it is. I have to do this for you. It's been, 2013? All right, we're over 10 years from the George Zimmerman debacle and the Trayvon Martin story that you're still asking a question about why didn't Zimmerman identify himself to Martin, which shows you didn't even pay attention to this story. He didn't have to. Let me tell you what happened. Since you're not listening and you didn't follow this case, and I have to do all the heavy lifting. Real simple. As George Zimmerman is going back to his car, when the officer told him, or the dispatcher told him that we don't need you to do that when he was following him, he walks back to his car so he can go to a place stationary to alert cops to where he saw Trayvon go. As he was walking back, you can hear on the phone call Trayvon say, "What are you doing following me?" Do you know what caused that confrontation? Because the woman who was on the phone, the young lady who was on the phone with Trayvon Martin, was telling him that guy could be coming to try to kidnap you. And Trayvon confronted him and says, "Yo, what you doing following me?" And George Zimmerman asked, "Are you from this neighborhood?" To which Trayvon then swung on him. Trayvon took the first swing. You didn't know that? Well, perhaps you should do a little bit of homework. I did. I'm telling you, I know that story better than I know my Social Security number. And I know that perfectly. We got to take a break. More news, more views. I got to talk about this mocking of Connecticut after headlines today. In this article, it's in the Hartford Courant. This piece is really, really damning. And we got to talk about that. So stand by for that. Let's get some news from the WTIC newsroom. John Silva is back with your news. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Reese on the radio, making sense of the news. Yeah, even when it makes no sense at all. Now on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Trust me, I wish I had time to relitigate all of those ridiculous stories. And I called them ridiculous from the start. And I've been right on every one of them. So people who try to debate me on them, they lose every time. But I totally appreciate the effort in the chat room. We'll get to some of the chat room comments in a bit, but let's get to some headlines. I got plenty of stuff here. So new information out of the Solomon Schechter School in West Hartford has emerged. It appears that a lawsuit has been filed against the school. And this lawsuit is on behalf of all of the students that were involved in any which way in the tickling incident. You might remember that we covered that story with two parents who who came forward in that case of one of the school teachers who was arrested some 4 times for tickling incidents at the school and others. Another school. There was 3 at the Solomon Schechter School and 1 at another. And now the case is being, I guess there's going to be a civil litigation at Solomon Schechter. There's a rumor that's going on, but I'm waiting until we do the interview that there's something going on over at the Solomon Schechter School that has had sort of a chilling effect over there at the school, a degree of fallout. But we'll get the details on that soon, and we'll update you as soon as I can interview one of the mothers who is planning on coming forward about this lawsuit. She's one of the parent who has filed the lawsuit on behalf of the other students that were involved in the case. Letitia James is also in the news. New York State mortgage records indicate that she committed mortgage fraud on a $200,000 credit line mortgage with Citizens Bank in 2021. Like other mortgages, it requires a signed note, a mortgage document, and recording with the county clerk. The mortgage document shows that James misrepresented her 5-unit apartment building as a single-family dwelling. This false claim allowed James to avoid significant higher commercial loan closing costs and a higher interest rate. In New York, the number of units in a property determines whether a loan qualifies as a residential mortgage with lower rates, a 1 to 4 family dwelling, or whether it's a commercial multifamily building, mortgage with higher rates and closing costs with 5 or more dwelling units. Now, the fact that people were making this argument that she had done this well before, she was she was conscious or it was a mistake. She did it again in 2021. So we'll see where that goes. You may have heard at the top of the hour that CNBC is reporting that the labor market created far fewer jobs than previously thought. According to the Labor Department's report Tuesday, that added concerns about both the health of the economy and the state of data collection. Remember the whole Bureau of Labor Statistics where everybody was outraged that Donald Trump would fire the person in charge? Well, it turns out that annual revisions to non-farm payroll data from the year prior, March 2025 to the year prior, show a drop in $911,000 from initial estimates, according to a preliminary report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The total revision is now in somewhere around the 600,000. So all of the jobs that Joe Biden was running around screaming that he had created, and many people on the left, Jessica Tarloff, anyone, saying that, look, he's growing jobs. He was not. And it was all a scam. So now they have to go back and look at all the numbers, and everybody's got to pull back and say, oh, we were wrong. Perhaps she should have been fired. You'll hear nothing, by the way. Don't expect to hear anything. You won't hear a word. Now let's get to the stupidest thing I read today.
Yes, you do. Stupid as can be. This could very well be the stupidest person on the face of the earth.
There's a reason why I'm calling this the stupidest thing I read today. Because I think the story is stupid. And it's misguided. The Phillies Karen. This is the woman who took the birthday home run ball away from a family member's that was caught on the Jumbotron that everyone was talking about for the last couple of days. Well, she has now been offered $5,000 for the home run ball with one condition. The trading card retailer called Blowout Cards has offered her $5,000 for the ball. But she's got to sign the ball, I apologize, and give it back to the fan she took it from. Now, a lot of people are making a big deal about this story, and why I think it's dumb is easy. This isn't about what it should be about. Because people are saying what this woman did in front of like all of these people to see, that she should be shamed, that she should lose her job. But what are they really wanting her to lose her job for? Because she was rude? Was because she took the ball from a little boy on his birthday? The thing that no one is talking about, which I find odd, is that the woman she took the ball. The man gave up the ball, took it from his son, and gave it to the woman because she felt she deserved it, having done none of the work. It is a classic case of where we are as a society. People feeling as if they deserve something unearned and then making a big fit about it. And people feeling guilty enough that they would take the prize from their own child to give it to someone because they screamed loud enough. Isn't that the state of our union? So all of these people who think that what she did was wrong, you should think that when it comes to guys like Zohran Mamdani, shouldn't you? A guy who believes that you should tax wealthier white neighborhoods? Why? It clearly isn't because they didn't earn it. You can't determine what people have earned or how wealthy they are and why. You can't. But Zohran Mamdani has just said, simply by the fact that you are wealthy, you must give more. That's what happened here. He walked over casually, waited for the ball to drop, saw it rattling around, reached down and grabbed it. It was nowhere near the woman. Sure, it may have flown near her, but she didn't catch it. But then she walked over and demanded. She yelled at him, "Give me the ball." She didn't even care that it was in the hands of a young, 10-year-old boy? She had to have it. I can find so many people who were just like that who support Zohran Mamdani. who think that we should have people like AOC and Bernie Sanders run our country, who believe that they should take from others. What did the man do? Did he steal the ball? Right? Did he punch somebody out? Did he shove someone? No. He walked over, jogged over. When he saw the ball coming, waited for it to come his way, took his opportunity, and gave the ball to his son. He didn't shame anybody behind him. He did the work. Did all the legwork. And that woman thought that he didn't deserve it. Why? Because it came near her. That's my ball. Give it back. I'm just wondering why no one seems to be offended. No one seems to even bat an eye at actual theft. That's never even, it didn't even dawn on you that that's what that whole situation represents. If you are outraged with her, you've got to be outraged with every other bozo running around screaming reparations for work they didn't do. And we're not just talking about slavery reparations. We're talking about any. Occupy Wall Street folks. People who didn't do the legwork, who feel that they've been disenfranchised, having never done the work. That because people who did, and I guess, centralized some form of wealth that they deem, illegitimate, that now they get to walk on over and demand your baseball. I can't believe no one, as soon as I saw it, that was the first thing I thought of. I didn't hear anybody else. Listen to Zohran Mamdani. This is him talking about how he plans to keep rich people in New York after taxing them. He was talking with Al Sharpton, Al Shifty, over at Politics Nation. I still laugh that that's an actual name of a show. This is him talking about how he plans on keeping them.
Right now, the top 1% earners in the city pay 40% of the city's income taxes, according to the Empire Center for Public Policy. How do you bring these wealthy residents to the table as mayor? Stop them from saying they're leaving, going to Florida, because we need that tax revenue to pay for some of the things you're talking about.
Yeah. How you going to keep them here? We need their tax dollars. The more money they make, the more money we get to have, Zoran. How you going to keep them here? Because they're wealthy enough to just pack up. If you haven't heard the answer, prepare to be stunned. Because in a roundabout way, Zoran is telling rich folks, if you do, the pitchforks won't come to your door.
What I have put forward is a vision to make the most expensive city in the United States of America affordable. At a time when we have the wealthiest city, it is also one where 1 in 4 are living in poverty. And to your point, we have a number of New Yorkers who are doing quite well. The top 1% of New York City earns $1 million or more a year. And my vision is not one where they leave, it is one where they stay. It is
How do you get them to stay?
In part by showing them that asking them to pay more in taxes would increase even their quality of life.
See? If you pay more, they won't burn down your neighborhood. If you pay more, they won't come for you. Their quality of life, these folks already live in protected neighborhoods. They already live in great apartments. They already hang out with the most elite, eat at the finest restaurants. What do you mean, their quality of life? Have you been to New York? Has anybody been to New York? The Upper East Side, the Upper West Side, the Upper West Side. Huh? Morningside Heights? Have you been there? Are you kidding me? They already live in the most plush neighborhoods. Well protected, I might add. Some of them have private security. Yes, they have private security. They don't have to stay. But here's Mamdani telling them their quality of life will improve. How? They can pay for a quality of life.
Because when you ask New Yorkers, what is it that is making them feel uneasy in this city? You often hear from them about the cleanliness of our city, the safety of our city, the affordability of our city. We are not asking to raise these taxes for the sake of it. We're asking so that we can actually make the slowest buses in the country fast and free, so that we can actually create a Department of Community Safety that would deploy dedicated teams of mental health outreach workers to the top 100 stations of the highest levels of mental health crises and homelessness. That relationship proving that tax dollar leads to that investment, because we know that it's not just a fiscal policy that takes somebody from New York City to somewhere else. Because a lot of New Yorkers, if they leave, they go to California, another high-tax state.
They're not going to California. They're definitely not going to California.
New Jersey, another high-tax state.
No, they're not going to New Jersey. Some of them will, but they ain't going to New Jersey. I'll tell you where they are going.
Many people say they might go to Florida, but I have seen and heard from many New Yorkers concern about this new elimination of vaccine mandates in Florida that makes them question whether they would ever want to live there.
And you don't think that the wealthiest people in Florida who would go to Florida would be concerned about vaccine mandates? What do you think, they're going to roll them around with the dirty people who won't get a vaccine? Dirty. Ne'er-do-wells. Do you think that's what they're concerned about? This kid doesn't have a clue. If you think that's bad, he wants to tax the 40% of New Yorkers who make $1 million or more. He says that it will make them have a better quality of life. But imagine that while answering this question about the gang database in New York City.
If city council legislation to abolish the NYPD gang database were to pass, would you support and sign that?
I have supported that proposal. It's one I've supported because of the vast dragnet has meant the inclusion of New Yorkers on the basis of whether they go out late, photos they put on social media, so much of the facts of life of being a young New Yorker. And yet it then becomes a mark of suspicion. And it is.
So now he's suggesting that young people who hang out late and post photos of themselves on social media is the object of ridicule by the police department. Really, just kids standing around saying, hey, that's now a part of it. It's not the gang signs that they're putting up in the photographs or the illegal weapons that they're holding up. Come on, man. This guy's serious? This guy is a serious contender. 20 points above Andrew Cuomo. Is Andrew Cuomo that toxic that this bozo is going to win?
Is a concern of mine that we do not live up to, of all people, Eric Adams's words in 2021, who said that New Yorkers need not choose between safety and justice. Mm-hmm. There's no question that we have to take gangs extremely seriously. And yet I find that a database that includes New Yorkers on such bases is one that doesn't actually do exactly that.
Okay.
New York is going to be a hellhole. If this happens, I'm going to be covering that almost every day about how crazy it's going to be. The place that just set it on fire. Just, whew, that's it. Why bother? I mean, I could see it now. We'll be starting the show like this. That's exactly what's going to happen. Zoran Mamdani, ladies and gentlemen. And you've got Josh Elliott here in Connecticut. He's going to do more of that, taxing the rich here in Connecticut. That's all it's going to be. It's just going to be more and more tax and spend to take care of more and more people who are falling into poverty. That's exactly what's going to happen over and over and over again. I would take Tom, but we're going to take him on the other side. So if you want to call in, you can now. It's 860-522-WTIC, 860-522-9842. When we return, the mocking of Connecticut and how Governor Lamont brought this on the whole state. I didn't want to touch this story But this pizza thing, it's clown show. And it's got the mockery of the whole pizza thing is warranted. And there's an article about it, about who decided to go this route, about Connecticut being the pizza state. It's silly. But I've tried this before, but I think I'm going to try a new approach. Okay? Connecticut has a mantra, a moniker. It should embrace it. And if I've got to be the guy from New York that has to tell Connecticut to stand strong, what has this come to? Like, I've got to come to Connecticut and do the marketing for it? I'll give you a hint when we return. Here's the marketing I think that it should be for Connecticut. It should model one of my favorite films, Dodgeball. And it's not aim low. When we return, I'll explain. So stick around. More news, more views when we return. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080. Yeah, we're back celebrating 100 years. It's Reese on the radio. In a minute, we'll get into this article by Christopher Keating of the Hartford Courant. And the headline is, if you haven't read it, what day is this from? September 7th. So it says, Connecticut is trying to shift the state's image. It failed many times before. But I want to not so much read the article, but sort of talk about what the article is about as it relates to this pizza thing. And that's the part that really, really annoys me. And when I say it annoys me, because this is something that could be remedied by recognizing who Connecticut is and stop grasping at straws. Okay? And I'm an outsider here in the sense of, look, I have not lived here all my life. I lived here once before for about a year in 2004. I get it. I know I'm an outsider. But I love Connecticut. You all know that. Some of you think that's half-witted and crazy. But I stand by that. So I'll explain that in a minute. Let's get to the phones. Tom is in Thomaston. How are you, sir?
Oh, hey, I didn't want to talk about this pizza stuff, Reese.
No, you don't have to.
You are, it got me. You are so wrong.
What do you mean?
We might not be the pizza state, but New Haven pizza is the pizza capital of the world.
Okay.
The best pizza ever.
Okay.
I'd keep away with that pizza stuff.
No. You know what? Every time you guys tell me not to touch on the subject, I always end up being right. I'm going to try it anyway.
All right. Why can't now pizza state? I don't know, but why is it wrong to promote what we think is the best pizza in the country?
Okay, because I think what I'm saying is, and I don't pay any real mind to the fact that, you know, New Haven or Connecticut wants to use New Haven as sort of the thing that we're going to stand on and say, okay, as Connecticut, we are the pizza state because of New Haven. That's great. It's fantastic. But I don't think that Connecticut should be recognized for its pizza. It has more to offer. So since you asked, I'm going to tell you what my view of Connecticut should be as a moniker. Did you see the movie Dodgeball? Please tell me you did.
Oh, yeah, but it is so...
That's okay. I love that movie because it's got so many quotable lines. But I
got you. I agree.
It's got a lot of quotable lines. But there is one line that I love, and it is from the antagonist of the movie, played by Ben Stiller, White Goodman. And this is what I believe Connecticut should stand on. It's arrogant, and it represents who we are. And I said we, that's right. It represents who we are. And it's as simple as this. Connecticut, we're better than you, and we know it. Because we are.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are. No. Hear me out. We are not Boston.
We were better than Connecticut in the we were better than everyone in the 60s and the 70s. Maybe into the 80s. But since then, we are a second-rate state.
No. See, again, this is exactly my point. You are letting other things dictate who the state is. Now, look, I know that New York was New York when it was New Yorkers. Now the place is flooded with, people from out of town. right? That's who the new New Yorker is. It's from other people. The people from New York have all moved out. They left it. They abandoned it. Connecticut is Connecticut. It's one of the places in the Northeast where people in Connecticut are from Connecticut, and they haven't leave. They always talk about their leaving, but they stayed. Why? Something kept them here, because deep down, Connecticut is the only place for them. Some people who've left still listen to this very network and still follow Connecticut moves because it's never out of their system. Because deep down, they know.
I'll follow you when I'd be gone in a minute. If someone gives me $150,000 for my janitorial service, I'll leave. I can't leave. I am stuck.
I understand that. But think about it. You would leave, but where would you go? Like, if you could, why not just go?
I'd love to go to San Diego, but it's gone. I'd go to the Sevierville, Tennessee area.
Okay. Now, I'm not going to listen, Tennessee, that's a lot of people are moving there. But the San Diego thing, you think prices are high here? Goodness gracious, and San Diego is right by the border. I mean, it's not what it used to be. San Diego is. I got a friend who lives there.
Well, I forget. There's one town about 30 miles inland. I forget it.
Okay.
That's where I would have lived.
Well, it's got the greatest weather in the world. I will tell you this, bar none, San Diego weather year round, I think it's an average of 70-something degrees.
Not far from Joshua Tree National Park.
That's right.
And 6 to 8 miles from Sequoia National Park. Lovely area.
I believe, look, and this is what I'm going to say about Connecticut, and I still believe it. Look, it's not New Hampshire. Nobody cares about New Hampshire. It ain't Vermont. Vermont is Vermont, but nobody cares. Massachusetts is Massachusetts, but without Boston, who cares? Like, without Boston, who cares? And other than that, it's Martha's Vineyards and Hyannisport. But the only thing that's got a saving grace for Massachusetts is Boston. Connecticut has everything and everywhere, and it ain't just the casinos. Everybody knows.
I agree with that. The Four Seasons, they're fantastic.
Yes.
But the politicians have ruined the state.
Yes, but if you let it. No, that's true. Look, I believe that a lot of people in Connecticut have let politics in the state overwhelm its reputation. I just don't believe that to be true. I do believe that Connecticut is Connecticut in spite of its politics. It's just that that's what rules the roost right now. But that's going to change.
I've been on the downward path.
I know you. Listen, you have been on this downward spiral on Connecticut, as many people have. When I got here, as soon as I got to this station, that's all I could hear every day, all day. Reese, you better not come up here, man. It's a mess. I'm like, no, man, I'm not giving up, and I know it's a worthy fight. I really do.
Can I make a quick comment on that girl getting?
Yes, Iryna.
Slaughtered?
Sure.
Yeah, all that might not have happened if maybe in 1994, I believe, when we told Ukraine to get rid of their nukes and we would protect them, if the United States and Europe and NATO kept their word and protected Ukraine, maybe that girl would have been safe in her own country.
Yeah, I mean,
not have to bed here.
there is just literally like you could go line by line, geopolitic. Literally in line item by line item that led to her being in the United States, which is supposed to be a safer place for her. And it's sad, but it's so true. There's so much blame to go around.
I think it's not a perfect solution, but we have got to, incarcerate, put in a home.
Yeah.
The mentally ill, we have got to put them someplace.
Yeah.
We can't let them roam the streets.
Yeah. It's got to be, we've got to return to the basics. This coddling of people based upon race. It started when we told people that microaggressions were a problem. We had to speak to people based upon their nationality, and deal with them with kid gloves. That started it all, and we let it get away. We overcorrected, and now it's come to the point where people are dying in the street. and people are living homeless in the street who can't get the help that they need, and we're not incarcerating the people that we need to get off the streets. That's what it is. It's led to mayhem.
It is. It's all those people that do violent things. They've got some drug issues, but they've got mental health issues.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.
All right,
You got it. What's up, Marky Mark? How are you, sir?
Hey, before we get to pizza, I just want to say Connecticut is wonderful. 65, if I can remember back when I'm 5 or 6, all these same beautiful rituals I did with my grandparents and parents are still around. There's just so much to do here. The seasons are wonderful, all that. It really boils down to when people say don't come here or people are leaving or don't bother, it really comes down to affordability and the liberalism that didn't exist 20, 30 years ago. So it's not so much we hate him. No, the state is wonderful. It's the people running it and what they've done to those of us who still love it here, but they've made it, look at, I'm the only one left here out of my immediate family. They made it so unaffordable that everybody, my brother went down South Carolina, my sister went down South, many of my friends and family. And I blame those people who are in charge.
But can I say something on your behalf, though, Mark? Let me say something on your behalf. Because a lot of people don't get this, and they miss that little nuance that I respect so much about you, is that you, with everything or flaw that everyone could ever state about you, there is one thing that they miss that I caught on to immediately. This guy could have taken every opportunity to crap on Connecticut. Instead, he exposed its flaws to correct them, to make it better. The objective is, there's one thing to complain, but you've got to look at it as, why is the guy so focused on all those things that are happening in the state? Because he doesn't want to see it go to ruin. That's dedication. Because you can just throw up your hands and go, what am I doing this for? I want to tell this story. Can I tell a story a little off the beaten path here about you, Mark, that could sort of show some appreciation for you? I want everybody to hear this, Mark. This, to me, is a testament. If you only knew how much ribbing, and it's well, it's done with, the love and care of a family. But they get on Mark, they send him text messages in a family text that are so funny, but they've never once deterred you from going out and doing the work. When you and I were on that boat, over at Selden Cove, your wife and the kids were going back and forth, teasing you about the work that you've done, but it's done with love because they've never once said, knock it off or you need to stop. They've always sort of given you a little healthy ribbing, but they totally understand what you're doing. They've never deterred you. And your dedication is pure.
They trust me. I do have to tell you, I didn't tell you that. I got somebody asked if that was Morgan Freeman's younger brother in the boat with me. I swear to God.
That is not the first time I've gotten the Morgan Freeman thing. I get it a lot.
So, but I do want to get to the pizza real quick. But people, just real quick, and I end this with as far as like people in charge. People go like, well, why do you continue to live in West Hartford? Because you know what? I was here before it turned all that way.
Yeah.
No, I want the people who ruined it out.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to move out.
Right.
I'm going to hold them accountable, and maybe one day they'll be out of here. Don't ask me like, you don't like it, leave.
Yeah.
But let me tell you so I'm more Italian and Irish and Polish.
Of course.
But I'm going to tell you right now, any Italian in my age, 60s and on up, the gig in Connecticut is, if you really want to appreciate, and this I learned from my grandfather, who was talk about tradition, he was a cobbler from Italy.
Yeah.
Every Saturday, we had in rotation Italian bakery-style pizza and even our restaurants. So this is very local. What I'm going to start saying names. We had restaurants. They were called Castle in Hartford, Casa Loma, Pippi's, the Brookside Bakery Restaurant. We had the bakeries themselves. Roma, Giovanni, Ciarci's, Chimeri's is still around. A couple of these and I'm going to bring you to these places.
Oh, I can't wait to go.
Street Bakery. And let me tell you something. My grandfather, he had the Peppies and the Sallies. He said, I'd rather feed that to the dogs and eat a real Italian style. Because the the Italians, that's what they made. They used to make the pizza with like a bread dough.
I got it.
It was a little thicker. Some people, but salads and pep, all that stuff, it cracks me up. I'm going, a real Italian would rather all day long eat an Italian bakery style pizza.
Absolutely.
Than any thin crust. Yeah.
But when we come back, I'm going to talk about this in more detail when we come back. Okay. But thank you, Mark. I got to take a break. We'll be back, folks. More news, more views. I'll talk about this a little further when we return. It's Reese on the radio on WTIC News Talk 1080.
It's Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
We've got weather and traffic coming up in a second, so stand by for that. So let me just read a little bit about this. Like I said, the article is written by Christopher Keating in the Hartford Courant. Connecticut is trying to shift the state's image. It's failed many times before. And it talks about this new campaign to make Connecticut the pizza state, right? And again, I'm against this because it's silly. And the mockery is warranted. I'm sorry. It just is. Because it seems like a push. It seems like a stretch. So let me read you some of the criticism to this marketing idea by Governor Lamont. Here's the response. You couldn't even keep the Whalers. Go be New York's B word or Boston's little brother some more. Stick to being irrelevant in New Hampshire or wherever you are located. Best cars, music, and pizza Detroit style. Please, that flimsy disc you claim is a pizza that can hold limited items is a joke. What's this? The hell even is a Connecticut pizza? No one even thought of Connecticut as pizza in the same sentence. Connecticut pizza is like a boy in school who is trying to fit in with the cool boys, but looks like a nerd doing it. The only real crime is that you consider yourself a state. This is the mockery. So please get off your high horse, Connecticut, and quit dissing the three cities that have done it very well for many years. So here, that one's my favorite. Get
PA
off
test
your...
coming.
Oh, we got to do a PAS test right now? Okay, we'll do it. Well, I could have waited to do this thing now. Here it is. Did I miss it? Oh, yeah, you did alert me.
Oh, all right, you good.
Okay, now we're good. Thank you. Anyway, that particular one says, so please get off your high horse. Connecticut. Even the people who are disrespecting you are saying you're on a high horse. Okay? That's Connecticut. They need to start embracing. Again, it's not about taking the title from some other place. That's never been your style. Remember, New Yorkers always thought of you as the brass ring. Be it. I don't understand why nobody gets it. Everyone has always thought about that. When they talk about Connecticut, when they first like, yo, I purchased a home in Connecticut. Do you not even recognize who you are? You're the place where people move to once they've made it. Do you not get it? Like, how is that? It's unfathomable. Have you been to your country clubs? Your hiking trails? Have you seen the restaurants and the places where people go? Hell, when all the malls are failing, West Farms is growing. There's an article about it today. Embrace it. We're better than you, and we know it. Pizza? It's the cheapest meal in the world. That's not Connecticut. You're not a bodega. Act like you got, remember where you are, not where you've been. Try to explain this to these people. Let's get our first check of weather and traffic. I'll find out who's in weather in a minute. But Mark Christopher, as always, in the BPS Traffic Center. You see these people? We're better than you, and we know it. It's the brass ring. We have the top-notch traffic guy, Mark Christopher. People don't recognize how good they got it. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Hey, Reese.
And congratulations goes to Arnie C. in Torrington. Got a lot of people listening out in Torrington. He is the recipient of the prize of the dozen bagels a month for 6 months, courtesy of Between Rounds, the Bagel Bakery and Sandwich Cafe, located in South Windsor, Vernon, and Manchester. In order for you to win, you've got to go online right now to ReeseOnTheRadio.com. That's REESE on the radio.com. Now, I have to spell it because apparently people are still spelling Reese with the C, even though Reese's Peanut Butter Cups has been around forever, but people don't know how to spell Reese. So it's REESE on the radio.com. You got to go there to put in your information. Make sure you put in your telephone number and your date of birth. Make sure that is in there. It has a little message pointing to put in your date of birth. You must live in the state of Connecticut, and you cannot have won within the last 6 months in order to participate. So do that now, ReeseOnTheRadio.com. I just got a confirmation from a guy I bumped into online. And when I say bumped into, I just ran across his videos. And he did this one video that literally, like, you know how sometimes people do this video online, and it's long, drawn out, and you just kind of go, oh, when does this end? Well, he did this video talking about a 15-year-old boy whose brother was in a band, and a 15-year-old boy wanted to sing, and his brother was trying to get him, saying his brother thought that his brother's much better than he was, and he's going to be in a band, no doubt. And it tells this whole story about all of these bands that the brother ended up in and all of these record deals that the brother got in. I couldn't turn away, and I'm listening, I'm watching this whole thing. And at the end, the story is about none other than Michael Bolton. And at the end of it, I was like, oh, man, there's like so much I didn't know about this guy. Well, the guy's name is Patrick Hicks. That's his name, Patrick Hicks. And I started watching his videos because of it, and it was so well done. The storytelling, it reminded me of a series that we talked about here in the air called Behind the Music. And the way he gives these details and so much information, I was compelled. So I got in touch with him. Finally, I reached out to him today. He reached out to me. He is doing this series about September 11th music that was banned. Remember that? Remember that? That was a big scandal and story, that after the events of September 11th, there were songs that were banned. Well, he's going to be on the show at 4:05 on September 11th. We're going to talk to him about those bands that had some albums that were not promoted or songs that were taken off the air because of the events of that day. All right, we'll have him on. His name is Patrick Hicks. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Now let's get another check of weather and traffic with Mark Christopher in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark. Later on in the program, I am going to address an accusation that I am some sort of shock jock because I called the Tulsa race riots the so-called massacre. And as usual, per usual, I am going to debunk the claim that I am some radical shock jock by stating the facts. The riots of 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, were always called riots. They were not referred to as a massacre until 2018. 2018. Okay? So, we'll go into all of that later on, plus some other pieces to the MLK story that I'm talking about, which Matty O suggested I should just leave alone and let the myth stand. I can't. I just can't. I thought about it all night. I said, no, just can't do it. I just can't. I'd rather take the heat. So we'll get into that. Let's get to the phone calls. 860-522-WTIC. Ben is in West Hartford. Hello, sir.
Reese, Ben Lewis here, calling live from the Pizza State.
Okay, you want to defend it? That's fine. All I said was I think that Connecticut should stand on the idea that we're better than you because, again, we are. And I looked at the stats, with the exception of maybe like a $10,000 difference, Connecticut is the richest New England state.
No, Reese, I am totally with you. I was kidding.
Yeah.
It's great to talk to you. How have you been?
I have been great, sir.
Well, I'll tell you what I wanted. Last time when I came on the show, we obviously talked about that crazy video that was circulating of me getting spat out with Ari.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard the latest bit of anti-Semitism that seems to be rampant now in West Hartford. There were dozens of yard signs, "We stand with Israel," in a coordinated effort that were snatched all over West Hartford neighborhood.
I do remember that. I remember that story was briefly covered in the Connecticut Mirror and the Insider.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to add one more layer onto this. You know, we talked about how the Democrats have kind of become the anti-Semitic party. LaToya Fernandez, who is an elected official in West Hartford, actually commented on this issue, saying that instead of police figuring out who the vandals are and making arrests,
right,
that there needs to be a community conversation on the issue because people are frightened. I don't know if you're aware.
Wait. Who are they suggesting is being frightened, or have they made that ambiguous?
Yeah, it's ambiguous, of course. But God, the fear-mongering never ends. But no, so what this rationale now says from the Democrat Party is that it's okay to vandalize private property if you disagree with their stance on an issue. So it's really... we've gone off the deep end, and I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. It's crazy.
Well, I will tell you that with every one of these stories, every waking moment in the state, with this sort of like sort of half-assed attempt to address certain things happening in Connecticut, I've resolved it. I don't know if you heard my opening monologue. I refuse to even wait for the mainstream media in Connecticut, or anywhere else for that matter, to respond to these stories. I've found a different way to deal with this, and that is, one, let's not, some things never change, and so I would rather them just stay where they are. I don't want to demand them to cover any stories anyway, because for them to cover that story would be like pulling teeth, and for them, they would only put a little bit of a spin on it that would save the grace of the individual who's committing the egregious act on individuals, as it was in your case, which no one seemed to care about because it was one of their own. I just feel like what we need to do is to just rely on the people that we can rely on. And, that's places like Newsmax that has a very invested interest in what's going on in Connecticut. And when I say invested interest, I've talked to those folks, and they know that the stuff that's happening in Connecticut is being ignored, and it is ripe with material for their shows. So we just need to go to the places where people will pay attention and ring that bell as loud as we possibly can, to the point where we drown out the folks who won't. They're losing. Ben, I'll tell you this. This is the part that really bothers me, that people haven't sort of glommed onto the idea, is that no one is watching these programs anyway, or these networks. Asking them to report on the stories that are important would be like asking somebody who's yelling through a straw to cover these stories. Nobody's hearing it.
It's very sad. I mean, the state of society would be so much better if the media just did their job and reported what happened instead of how they feel about what happened.
Yeah.
It's very sad, but you and I both know that it's all over Connecticut, all over the country, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. Like you said, we just got to...
Yeah, we just got to keep putting... Right, we just got to keep our foot on the pedal and never let go. Look, remember, when everyone's... And this is another thing that I tell a lot of people, especially those running for elected office. We have to understand that when we are talking about people who refuse to cover certain things, that means we have to double our efforts to get the word out, right? We can't... if we're complaining about what they're not covering, we're not bringing attention to the thing that they're not covering. So we need to focus our efforts on getting that word out. Going backwards, because I feel that's hustling backwards. Going after the people who are not going to talk about it and trying to get them to do it only makes the story old. Like, by the time we get them to pay attention to it, it's too late. So we got to focus on making sure that we keep our foot on the gas of making sure that story is out there. And the people who do know about it. And social media is the only way we got. I mean, it's the only avenue we have now. So we got to do it.
No doubt about it. Keep fighting the good fight. Reese, listen, you're on the right side of things. You're doing the right job here, and I can't tell you how appreciative I am to have you in Connecticut.
Not a problem, sir. I appreciate you. Ben Lewis, ladies and gentlemen of West Hartford.
And hey, vote for Ben Lewis, Ben Council, West Hartford.
You got it, sir. Absolutely. And we are supporting Ben Lewis. Just so nobody knows. And if his opponent wants to come on, have at it. I'm kidding. Sam in West Hartford, how are you, sir?
Hey, Reese, how you doing, man?
I'm all right, sir. What's up?
So a couple of things to add to your conversation today, and then I want to real quickly talk about what I was going to talk to you about.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
So we're the basketball state. We're the pizza state.
Okay.
Basketball Hall of Fame is in Springfield. Pizza's good, but, you know, I've been here for a long time. I love Connecticut. I was born here. But it's kind of a failing state at this point. It really sucks to say.
I know. You sound so defeated, Sam. Come on. What is it going to take?
I feel defeated. You know, I mean, you got people like disgraced Sergeant Brian Fahey, who wasn't arrested before his retirement.
Yep.
So he gets to collect $250,000 a year for the rest of his life.
Yeah, but you know what? At the end of the day, what was it about? Was it about revenge?
It's about misuse of taxpayer funds. In 4 years, that's $1 million.
I know.
That's a lot of money, man.
But you know what?
You know?
Listen, there is a precedent. There's a precedent that needs to be set. Because and this is Sam, this is something I tell people about. The focus is the most important thing, right? Indeed. You can look at Brian Fahey's arrest or how this whole thing is played out, and you can look at it one way. If that is the focus, that's where everybody draws their focus, right? At the outrage at the fact that, you know what, he gets to keep his pension, he makes all of this money, and that's where the outrage is, where you almost feel like there is no punishment. However, there is another way to look at this, right? Everybody told us, and this is the part that people keep forgetting. When I first reported on this, everyone told me nothing was going to happen, right? There would be nothing. It was zero, nada, and it's just going to be swept under the rug. That didn't happen. So you got to go there. That's where the focus needs to be, is that this sort of defeated. That's why I said that whole thing about you said you kind of feel like you're defeated here. If you do, if you're crying uncle, then you're telling your opponents that you're no longer willing to fight. You got to stop that.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? You got to stop that. If it's worth fighting for, you have to always be fighting. You know, it's just one of those things, right? I know, yes, we're going to lose a lot of them. The battles never stop because the war's never over. It just isn't.
Right.
So I'm hoping that motivates you in some little way. But, you know,
it definitely does.
Thank you. Because my purpose here is for people not to lose hope. And if there's anybody who's a testament to that, it is yours truly, sir. I'm not supposed to be here.
I understand.
You know? So I love you for trying, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Have a good day.
You got it. Let's go. Tony's in Rocky Hill. We haven't heard from Tony in a while. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Right. I listen to a station now, it's strictly music, no commercials. So rarely am I get involved with talk shows anymore.
Okay, well, Tony, why are you here?
Because I came across a gentleman from West Hartford, and we're talking about, I guess, the negative feelings in West Hartford and so forth.
Well, I think he's talking about Connecticut overall.
Yeah, but I think a lot of those, the big reason because of that kind of attitude and feelings on individuals' parts today has to do with talk shows on the radio. We need more music and more relaxation and so forth.
So you think so you want people to be they need illusions.
The political process, the two-party system, plus the
No, but Tony, what you said they need more music. So they need to snap their fingers and dance more.
Need more. We go back to the old times, okay?
Yes, go back to the old times. I hear you. We need to go back to dancing and shaking a tail feather, right?
Why don't you let me do the talking?
Because it's a talk show and it's my show. And so I asked you a question. Why don't you answer the question, Tony? Is that what you want? Do you want us to shake a tail feather, Tony? Is that what you want? You want everybody to...
You're a screaming maniac.
What? You know what? For a guy who says I don't listen to talk radio, it sounds like you listen every day. Why are you lying? Oh, don't it? Okay. Well, I was going to have some fun with him. I was going to have some fun. I want to read some more of these, just because. And we'll get to the other phone calls in a second. These are, what is this? Laugh out loud, the Temu pizza people coming out in force. It's not about pizza, and I know that's great. You know, if New Haven pizza is the best pizza around, you know what? Look, applause. But I want you to think about that. I just want you to think about that. This is your home. This is your home. And it sounds, look, oh, God, I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there. And I know this is going to be so, it's not going to be received well, so forgive me. And I want you to know before, just as a caveat, I say this out of love, okay? It sounds desperate. It does. Pizza? Really? That's what Connecticut has been, like, reduced to? We got great pizza? Nothing else? Nothing? It's just really, it just sounds desperate. And I know that this is some campaign drummed up by some guy in PR who thinks that that's going to bring some sort of attention to Connecticut, but it completely spits in the face of everything. Everything. And I don't get it. I was on the Connecticut River in spite of the fact that we were going there to report on a story. And do you know what I saw? I saw a man on that boat, two men even, skipper as well, pointing out landmarks on that river, celebrating the river and its landmarks. There was something to talk about. When I went to go have dinner with Craig in the car and his wife at the country club that I won't disclose, beautiful country club, the greens were fantastic. I immediately wanted to become a member. Immediately. As did my wife. And he couldn't stop talking about how beautiful. He drove us around in his car, showing us the beautiful homes just off the golf course. That is pride. What's wrong with having it? That whole time that I was in Connecticut, not one person mentioned pizza. Not one. And I did go to Nepal's, which is right across the street. Who, by the way, has amazing pizza. I think we ate it like 3 or 4 times that week. You guys don't know what you're missing. I'm not even from here. Let's get another check of weather and traffic. Carl Erickson's got weather. Mark Christopher, he's in the PPS Traffic Center. There's more to Connecticut than pizza, Mark.
I would hope so. Good Lord.
Thank you.
I mean, I would eat pizza for every meal if I could. But,
hey, so would I. So would I.
There's got to be a little bit more to this place than just that.
Stay locked in. Reese on the radio is on WTIC News Talk 1080.
Yeah, make sure, folks, you go to the Reese on the Radio website. That's REESE on the radio.com website. We've got Substack. You can go there and you can follow Substack. If you follow on Substack, you can get the article directly into your email whenever I write it on Sunday. So it usually roughly anywhere between 8 and 10 o'clock Eastern in the morning, my article will publish. I usually write it on a Saturday evening when, I've finished taking my wife everywhere across the country. And then I'll write it, and then I'll post it to immediately air it Sunday morning, anywhere between 8 and 10 a.m. Eastern. So if you'd like to, you can go there. Now, this is something, this is going to sound like I'm begging. And you have to forgive me in advance because it will sound like I'm begging. And it's not intentional, okay? So it turns out that I don't have a significant amount of followers on X. Not that really matters, okay? It's not. All right, so it was suggested to me to say, hey, tell people to follow you on X. And I went, okay, I will. I love things, and this is me. And I know this is probably one of the worst traits that I have. I am uncomfortably modest. My wife gets on me about it. My friends get on me about it. And they go, Reese, this is stuff that you have to do. And I always feel icky. You know, like some people always tell me, it's like, yo, Reese, you should have paid subscription. I'm like, no, I won't do that. Just like, well, how do you expect to get paid? I'm like, that's not my deal. Not that my wife, she's not like one of those people, you know, of course she'd love if I made $1 million a year. But I'm just never been comfortable with that. So, but I get harangued about it all the time. Reese, you got to promote yourself. You got to tell people to go to X. Got to tell people to go to Facebook and follow you and become, you know, friends. That's what this business is about. You got to do it. So I'm doing it now. So if you go to ReeseOnTheRadio.com, if you go to the top right-hand corner, just click on the X and follow Reese on the Radio. So you can get the show there. It airs live, or you can see some of the content that I post. Because I'll tell you what it is. The interest is supposed to get me to post more on X and do things, which has been successful. It looks like when I post up, thousands of views on them show up. So you've asked for it, so I want to be able to do that. So when people pressure me and say, you know, Reese, you got to promote it. So I'm promoting it. So I'd appreciate it kindly if you could follow the show on X. Just go to ReeseOnTheRadio.com in the top right-hand corner. Click on the X. That's where it is. You can follow. If you like to follow on Facebook pages or not on X, do that as well. It sounds like I'm in pain asking, because there's something about it that just kind of makes me go, there's an ick thing to it. I love the organic. Like when I see people, like one day I'll wake up and it was like, oh, you know, you're followed by 100 people today. And I always go, oh, that's so nice. Thank you. And I always feel like, wow, they like me? That's great. I'm like Sally Field, you know? They like me. They really like me. It's, but when you ask for it, I don't know. There's a degree of like, I don't know. It feels, is that a word? Inorganic? It just sounds, I don't know. It just does. It's just one of those things. I never got it. I don't understand it. We got to go to Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Have you ever had to do something like that, Mark? Like promote something you just didn't feel? Not anything, but even yourself. Do you ever feel uncomfortable? They're saying, hey, you know, go to my Facebook page. You kind of feel like, yeah.
Good to be with you. You know what? I am the worst marketer of myself. I do not do a good job for that. I'm not comfortable doing it. I think that's really what it is.
You're not comfortable with doing it. Do you mind if I just want to probe just real quick, if you can, in like 30 seconds? What do you think it's about personally? Because I have that same feeling, but I'm wondering if it's sort of associated in some way, like sort of the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Some people, they post, what they have for dinner every night, and they post every little thing in their personal life. And to be honest with you, I'm not that exciting of a person. I'm just a regular Joe. So if I post something, I don't think it's going to be all that exciting. So I don't post a lot. I think that's what it is.
Yeah,
honestly.
Gotcha.
I don't know what else to tell you, but yeah, I don't market myself very well.
Yeah, me either.
What do they say now? You're supposed to create a brand. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
Brand.
I guess that's supposed to be.
That's what.
Maybe
that's the buzzword. Brand. You need a brand.
Maybe we are actually like we're preventing our own sort of like celebrity in a way, right? We're like kind of like
maybe, yeah.
Right, we're like blocking our own potential.
Yeah, I mean, I love talking on the radio. I love talking with you. I love goofing around. But just that part of it, I just haven't really gone into it. I'm like you just said, I'm not comfortable doing it either. So
yeah, it always feels weird. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, it does. Maybe because it's our age. Maybe this is our generation.
100% right.
The younger people love doing it, though, man. Holy smokes! Hey.
NAACP calls him. Whoa! I don't think I'm allowed to read this.
It's Reese on the Radio.
Let's just say some people are not fans.
On News Talk 1080.
WTIC.
All right, we're back. Reese on the Radio. Let's take a few phone calls, and then we'll get into this shock accusation about Tulsa, Oklahoma. Bob's in Meriden. How are you? Rob. Oh, Rob. It looks like Bob. Sorry.
Right, yeah. And I'm the the boot guy. But I had a few questions. If you could, maybe I could ask you, and you could, I get off the year. They say when you're a good politician and you go into like D.C. or senators, you sort of get corrupted.
And
you have all good intentions. But now I heard earlier on one of the broadcasters stations that younger police officers, men, women, are apprehensive of going into the industry of police work because the thin blue line thing is scaring them. And if they don't go with the flow, they could jeopardize their career. As if you were a plumber, electrician, HVAC guy, you don't have to be influenced to make a bad decision.
So
if you could tell me off the air, just respond, and that's about it.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. I think if there are people who are apprehensive about getting into any industry because of rumors about said industry, it's a fake story. Now, let me understand that. Now, to make sure I make this clear, why it all sounds ridiculous. So imagine I want to be a radio host, and I hear that there's a lot of backstabbing in the radio industry, which I learned very early on. There's a lot of ego, there's a lot of backstabbing in radio, but my approach to that is, yeah, I really love it, but I'm not going to do it. Here would be the question I would ask if I heard that story. Who did you tell? Who's running that survey? Who's running around going, we surveyed some people who want to be cops, but they said they won't because of this, that, and the third. Who's holding that survey? Gallup? Quinnipiac? We could have much more police officers in the street, but they tell us that they didn't go in because of this, that, and the third. Did they really try to apply? Did they really have any interest? Did they go through the rigmarole of becoming a police officer? Probably not. So I would call that testimony phony and made up. That's what I would do. Because, again, how could you gauge that? How does one find someone who wanted to be a cop but chose not to? Like, is there a support group? It just sounds ridiculous on its face. It just does. Let's go to our good friend Fred. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good. Word cop here. Police work is a profession.
That's right.
Rather than an industry. I have a mantra for you from Winston Churchill. I'm not sure if he says it 5, 6, or 7 times, but it's never, ever, 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 ever give up. Okay?
That's right.
That's your mantra. And as far as you can find me on X, you can find me here. I want to see a no solicitor sign. That's bad radio.
I know.
Trust your instincts. You're uncomfortable doing it because it doesn't work and it's not you. And what are you doing right now? When I see someone walking with their phone, I quote, the way of the master. When I'm sleeping, I'm sleeping. When I'm eating, I'm eating, And when I'm walking, I'm walking,
Fred, thank you. You know what? I totally commend you. I applaud you like no other, my friend. Thank you for saying, you know what? It was killing me as to having to even talk about it. And now I'm hearing you say it. It's just like, if it feels uncomfortable, trust your instinct. And I should have. I totally should have.
The older you get, the more you go this way. Well, now you know. And you know what? Real quick. I should leave it there. But that thing about Liberty Valance that Matt, I think, made the point. I follow that exactly, Liberty Valance with Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne. So here's another couple ones. Oh, Rock Hudson, he broke my heart. And then another one, J. Edgar Hoover. We didn't need to know he was gay. No, we did need to know that he was. It's always the self-hating members that do a group the most harm. Hitler, who was, 8, 12% Jewish.
That's correct.
All right.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So let me get to this thing. The original documentary called Uncle Tom was a huge success. Its follow-up, Uncle Tom 2, not so much. A lot of people didn't even know it was there, I being one of them. I knew it was out there, but I really never sat down and talked about it or watched it because I thought it was going to be some of the same old stuff from the first film. Good friend of mine, C.L. Bryant, is in the original, as you know. Larry Elder is also a part of it. Ben Carson. There's some quotes from Clarence Thomas. And Uncle Tom, again, is talking about African-American conservatives or people who have decided to get off of the Democrat plantation or reservation. And it has been something that we've seen as of late, that people have become more comfortable with saying that they are no longer aligned with the Democrat Party. It has betrayed them something awful. And I have been struggling for the last couple of weeks with stories about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that are coming to light. And the more and more I do my research about it, again, like Matty O said, I would just leave it alone. I really did want to leave it alone. And I even said this. I said that the thing that I was struggling with, that was sort of pulling at that thread, was that knowing that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the first recipient of the Margaret Sanger Award. And then knowing what Margaret Sanger said about convincing black people, black women, to abort their babies. That we needed, or she said, we needed to encourage black clergy, black ministers and pastors to convince their people to abort their babies. And to see that award go to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a guy who was talking about, ending segregation, what we believe was the plight of black folks, civil rights. He is the figurehead, the leader, as many people call him, our leader. It's the reason why we keep hearing now. It's like, we need more black leaders. We hear that all the time. So watching this and watching these stories, Tulsa, Oklahoma came to mind. And now I'm being called a shock jock for suggesting that Tulsa, Oklahoma was not a massacre. It was only deemed that after the fact. The shift to massacre began in the late 90s and the early 2000s among historians, activists, and some media outlets, reflecting a reevaluation of the event as a one-sided attack than a mutual conflict. A notable early use in a major publication was Tim Madigan's book, The Burning Massacre, Destruction, and the Tulsa Race Riot of 1921. That book came out in 2001, which incorporated massacre in its title to emphasize the brutality and targeted destruction. This coincided with increased attention from Oklahoma's Commission to Study Tulsa's Race Riot of 1921. That was formed in 1997, whose 2001 report documented the violence but still used riot in its official name and title. The term gained further traction in educational and advocacy contents. As such, in the Zinn Education Project's material, which argued for massacre to highlight white supremacist intent. Widespread adoption by news media institutions and public acceleration in the late 2010s, driven by preparations for the 2021 centennial. Key milestones include the 2018 commission that was officially renamed the Tulsa Race Massacre Commission. 2019, a Change.org petition pushed the name change, reflecting growing public discourse. And in 2021, the Library of Congress updated the official subject heading from Tulsa Race Riot to Tulsa Race Massacre. That is a changing of history. As they were closer to the riot, it was called a riot. As they got further away from it, they changed its name. It is not controversial to call it a so-called massacre, because that's what that definition is, so-called. Not a shock jock.
Memorial Day marks 100 years since the Tulsa Race Massacre.
The infamous massacre that took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1 century ago.
The worst incidents of racial violence in this country, the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921.
The Tulsa Massacre was a race riot before, 2018. These black activists and scholars turned it into the massacre.
Race massacre.
Race massacre.
Tulsa Race Massacre.
President Biden will visit Tulsa, Oklahoma to mark the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre.
This was not a riot. This was a massacre.
That Tulsa Massacre is bullcrap.
A white mob killed some 300 black Americans.
300 black people died. That's not confirmed at all.
Descendants of the massacre are calling for justice.
They use this example as to why Black America was never able to build wealth.
It's pretty much a reflection of just the Black experience in America in general.
Never able to pass down wealth generationally to their children.
What would our lives have been if we weren't robbed of our generational wealth?
They always point to this one place in Oklahoma, known as the Greenwood District, Black Wall Street. In the 20s, it was a model of Black success. Black businesses, Black churches, strong Black family units. What we're taught is that the white people who lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, were jealous of the Blacks who lived in Greenwood. We're told that they developed this plan to go in and destroy Black Wall Street, to displace these people who live there, to burn down these businesses, to kill as many Black people as possible.
Black people in Tulsa have been oppressed ever since the massacre for 100 years.
That Black success died in 1921 with the so-called massacre. There was a pastor in Oklahoma named Solomon Sir Jones. He was able to film a lot of Black life during this time in Oklahoma. The riot happened in 1921. 1925, according to Solomon Sir Jones's footage, Black Wall Street was built back. And what you see is life as usual. After this so-called massacre. And then you fast forward even to the 1940s, you see the same thing. Successful, happy, well-to-do Black folks.
They didn't tell you that, did they? They refused to. And that Solomon Sir Jones footage was from exactly August 20th, 1925. And in that footage, it was called the National Negro Business League Parade. And this parade didn't just happen in Tulsa, Oklahoma. According to reports, by the way, the National Negro Business League started by Booker T. Washington, by the way. Such parades were in Boston in the 1900s, year 1900, Chicago 1901 and 1912, Richmond 1902, Nashville 1903, Indianapolis 1904, New York 1905 and 1910, Atlanta 1906, Topeka 1907, Baltimore 1908, Louisville 1909, Little Rock 1911, Philadelphia 1913. When we return, I'll tell you even more damaging evidence about the lie. Let's get another check of weather and traffic. Mark Christopher is in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark. No Hollywood news today other than the fact that my wife is watching Lilo and Stitch for the third time. So she got this thing. She got Disney Plus, and I guess it came with a package of some sort. And so she's been watching these Disney movies over that. I guess that's her thing. You got to let girls be girls. That's all you can do. When we come back, I have more on this on this story as it relates to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And it's the part that's really, really bad about all of this. And I'm going to read this part before I play the last video clip in the next break. What actually did damage to Tulsa, Oklahoma? It says urban renewal and highway construction. In the 1960s and 70s, federal and local policies under the Federal Aid Highway Acts targeted Greenwood as a blighted area. The construction of the inner dispersal loop, including Interstate 244, displaced hundreds of homes and businesses through eminent domain with compensation below market value. This fragmented the community, leading to a sharp drop in black home ownership and business visibility. For example, survivors like Mabel Little lost rebuilt properties in 1970s. Now, what caused it to be a blight, according to these folks? Believe it or not, integration. They also write in the research, post-1954 Brown versus Board of Education and into the 1960s and 70s, desegregation allowed black residents to shop and work outside of Greenwood, reducing patronage for local businesses. Meanwhile, white-owned stores began serving black customers, intensifying competition without reciprocal benefits for Greenwood entrepreneurs. So while blacks were allowed to leave the area and shop everywhere, which is, again, a good thing, if they find, maybe they're selling something over here that I like, that competition ends up hurting the entrepreneur where everyone was segregated too. Just saying, reading the facts. Let's get another check of weather and traffic. Mark Christopher and Carl Erickson's got weather. They're in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey, Mark.
Oh, hold still. This is only going to hurt a little. It's Reese on the radio on News Talk 1080 WTIC.
Yeah, as I was going through this stuff, more and more, the part that really, really made me upset is I kind of feel like there's so many people who have been duped, myself included. I can't even speak for everybody else. I have been duped into all of this. And it's not like people didn't talk to me before. It's just I avoided it like the plague. And now I'm going over all of this stuff, and it's more and more. It's just really, really upsetting. Just stuff doesn't make sense to me. And when it didn't, I never really questioned it. I knew it was the third rail. I got it. It's always the third rail. And people are just, they're going to do what they do. I want to read before I take the phones, go back to the phones at 860-522-WTIC. Regarding specific businesses in Tulsa, Oklahoma, C&B Bottling Works was a beverage manufacturing facility on Archer Street. John and Lula Williams Auto Repair Garage was another one that was noted here. There were some oil-related companies that were in this region as well. I went through some of the other industries that were listed in all of these national Negro business leagues that were being promoted. And some of these entrepreneurs did everything. Everything. I make fun of this, and I've known to make fun of this. I'll tell people in the black community all the time when I'm out and about and, being in the neighborhoods that I've been in. And I was like, we don't need another clothing line. Okay, brother? Yes, barbershops and beauty shops are all well and good, but you know what? Can we get somebody to start an HVAC company? Can somebody start a plumbing company? There are plenty of other industries you could start. You could be an electrician. And some people say, well, we don't have the capital to do that. The conditions back in the 20s were far worse. Far worse. And people owned those industries. Flourished even. I mean, why was it called Black Wall Street? Right? Because it was flourishing. And we were led to believe that it was just this one model, just one. And once that was destroyed, it was nowhere else. But here it is. The evidence is all over the place. It's everywhere. It's a simple search. Boston, 1900. Boston had one of these parades. Chicago, 1901. Richmond, Virginia, below the Mason-Dixon line, ladies and gentlemen, 1902. Nashville, 1903. Indianapolis, 1904. New York, 1905 and 1910. Atlanta, 1906. Topeka, Kansas, 1907. Baltimore, 1908. Louisville, 1909. Little Rock, Arkansas, 1911. Philadelphia, 1913. And other groups up to the 1920s and beyond. These gatherings often included symposiums, speeches, and displays of economic progress. But documented industrial parades like Tulsa are less common and primarily noted in Oklahoma. A comparable industry parade took place at the National Negro Business League's 15th Annual Congress in Muskogee, Oklahoma, from August 19th till the 21st in 1914. It featured a bustling procession that impressed Booker T. Washington, highlighted local black entrepreneurs and enterprises, its professionals and community resilience in a format that was similar to the Tulsa event. The parade included a symposium of participants from across the country, such as J.T. Walton out of San Antonio, Texas, Scott Bond out of Forest City, Arkansas, Fred Moore of New York City, emphasizing themes of entrepreneurship and self-reliance. Let's go to the phone. Simsbury Joe, what's up, buddy?
Hi there, Reese. I'd like to talk about the Tulsa thing, but I just saw something that has me pretty upset.
Okay.
So I'd like to talk about that. So you were talking about the whole X Twitter thing before, and I happened to go on X, and some people have posted the complete video of what happened on that train in Charlotte.
I've seen it.
It is, when you see her keel over, it is just so heartbreaking.
Mm.
And I will say this about myself. Normally when I call, I'm very certain about what I say, very certain about what needs to be done about it. Today, I'm not certain about what needs to be done about what I'm going to say.
Okay.
That animal.
Okay.
And should not have been out in public. And I don't know what we need to do, but at the risk of sounding like a liberal, we need to do something. We need to start holding judges and politicians responsible, depending on the situation, for this guy being out on the streets and doing what he did and what I just watched on video.
Yeah, you know what's so funny, Joe? I saw that someone posted something similar to what you just articulated, and you know what? Think about the immunity of a judge who, in essence, I mean, the power that judge has in their hands with that perpetrator, with everything that he has done. And when you talk about the volatility of this man, this was a person that his own mother said had to be put away. In one case, he had beaten, pulverized even was the description, his own little sister. There was no telling what this person would do to a stranger. To have a judge with that kind of power allow this man to go out and this be the result, how do you not want to hold judges responsible?
And the thing is, I'm sure there are people that are listening to this and they're saying, oh, we can't do that. There's no way to do it. How would we ever do it? And that's why I don't know the specific way that it needs to be done, but I'll talk to those people right now. If I was a bartender and I served someone that one extra drink and they went out and they ran their car into someone and killed them, I could be arrested for murder. So don't tell me that we can't find a way where something is so egregious, and I'm not talking about the one-time situation here, or maybe even the two-time situation where someone that we would really like to see behind bars is let out. I'm talking about, and we saw something in New York City, and I don't remember the specifics, about a year or so ago, something like 35 times.
Sure.
It's like we need to figure out a way to hold the lefty judges responsible. And if it's their hands are tied because of lefty politicians, hold the politicians responsible. Because if the lowly bar, and I call it lowly, but I don't mean it lowly,
right,
but comparably, if the lowly bartender can make a mistake and give someone who's tipsy that one extra drink, and they go and kill someone and they end up going to prison for doing it, then we can find a way at a minimum to disbar the judge, to take away their pension, to do something.
Can I appeal to the better angels of liberalism in your summation? Can I, because I think this would be, because you're talking about that one bartender that gives the extra drink, but let's go to the holy grail of liberalism: gun manufacturers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's usually exactly where they go. That's always been the case. Hell, the NRA has always got blood on its hands at every school shooting or any mass shooting for that matter. They always go to the people who aren't responsible. So in this case, even with what you're saying, the judge has far more culpability than the NRA does, and people don't bat an eye at blaming them.
And people they'll fall back on this whole thing of, well, what happens to our society and our legal system? Do we want to influence them like that? And again, I'm not saying that we need to influence them on things that are open to interpretation and by different people in different ways. I'm saying when you get a situation like that, or that thing that happened in New York City, it's not open to interpretation or misinterpretation other than by people who are out of their freaking minds. So at that point, we need to do something.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And again, I agree with you. I think you're right. You know, if we look at this in the same level, like this is commonplace. Somebody's got to be held accountable. And if we go that route with the NRA, if we go that route with gun manufacturers, this person, we know that a judge is faced with how many times this guy has been hauled into the courtroom for something egregious he has done, and they took another opportunity to release him to the world and putting him in harm's way. It was like putting out a loaded weapon, onto the public.
All based on a written promise to appear.
Yes.
Again. And
do you promise?
He's appearing again.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you, man. That's such a way it's such a good perspective. All right. He's from there, so let's get into it. So I'm a shock jock.
No, I think you've got to.
But I don't say no. That's what you called me.
I'm trying to up my ante, if you don't mind.
You called me a shock jock, didn't you?
Yeah, because the fact that I heard the word hoax and other things being thrown about, and then after just a few years, after the riot, which really, in my view, is a massacre, because when you have the Ku Klux Klan, the Tulsa County sheriffs, and others using machine guns.
Was it a riot, sir?
It was a massacre.
Was it a riot?
Absolutely. Of course.
Thank you. That's all I need to know. So wait a minute. So we get further away from, hold on. We could have called it, wait. We had the Valentine's Day Massacre, didn't we? It was called the massacre immediately after it. May I finish, please? I just want to finish the sentence. It was called the massacre immediately after the events. Why? Because the people in during that altercation, that murder, were massacred. They were not able to rebuild, sir. They were not able to rebuild. So the bottom line is that it was always referred to, for almost 100 years, referred to as a riot. And then it was subsequently changed because they wanted to change it. And what I'm arguing is this. It's not that anyone didn't know about it. In the 90s, they did know about it. In the 80s, they knew about it. Everybody knew about it. And it wasn't called a massacre.
Wait.
Let me finish, please. I'm not done. It was
Well,
called.
you know,
What do you mean we didn't? You don't know who knew about it.
I didn't know about it. I was in the school system, the Tulsa school system.
Why are you
less than a
suggesting
couple
that
miles,
because you
did
didn't know,
not
we
teach it.
didn't? I knew about it.
Then you had your ear to a place, that we.
I'm
didn't
from
in
the black
local
community.
area.
They never stopped talking about it.
I'm from the Tulsa community.
Okay.
We never talked about it.
Okay, and again,
That's the difference.
I was at least more than 1,500 miles away, and I knew about it. But it was never called the massacre. It was called the riot.
Because
or whatever.
if it was a riot, it would imply some sort of equal sign.
Tell me why it
almost
needs to be
each
called a
other.
massacre. Why is that so important to you?
Because it is so one-sided, so destructive. The Tulsa Sheriff's Office, the Ku Klux Klan, and everybody else did not live there. Their homes were not affected. One community, the black community, was burned down. Literally hundreds, if not 1,000 houses were burned down. Airplanes flew over with bombs. Okay? That's not the type of riot, that you see. You have an organized, collective, semi-military assault on some people because somebody maybe have stepped, a black guy may have stepped on a white girl's, toes or something to that effect.
What
And
about stuff? What about
happened was-
Project Move? Was that a massacre?
Up in Philly?
Pardon?
Project Move in Philadelphia?
Yeah, was it a massacre?
Probably. If you drop
Why has it never
again,
been called
bombs
that?
on that?
Why has it never been called the massacre?
Because a lot of people have, if you ask every, kid that graduated high school now, have they ever even heard of it?
Wait a minute. So something that happened more recent than the Tulsa, Oklahoma riot, people wouldn't remember it?
No, I'm saying, this, I don't know whether the people in the Move thing had guns and were defending themselves. I don't know that. I can't speak about that. I'm only speaking about what I know from the area that, 4
Actually,
years,
that doesn't sound
I
accurate,
didn't
Tim.
see it.
Tim, that doesn't sound like you really knew.
What?
I think that you admitted already that you hadn't heard about it, and you're from Tulsa, and you're learning about it very late, and you're very comfortable. Stop. You're comfortable with the word massacre because it's a means to an end. That's all. That's all it is.
Look, if they did not teach it in my hometown, would there have been essentially a cover up or?
No, I don't think it would have been a cover up. I just think that I think it was expedient. That's all it was. I got to go to a break. Yeah, it's time for what had happened was, and today we talked about the opening monologue, I should say, was about the death of Zarutska, Iryna Zarutska, and people's obsession with the mainstream news media not covering it. Please check that out by going to the Odyssey app. I also talked about the Mocking of Connecticut, the Christopher Keating article talking about how Connecticut's trying to find its footing or its identity. I still don't understand that, why it keeps trying to change its identity, but I talked about that a little bit as well. No Hollywood news today, but on tomorrow's program, we're going to talk about Aaron Siri, the attorney, his testimony at the Senate Homeland hearing on public trust in vaccines. There were a lot of bombshells in that testimony, as well as some embarrassing back and forth between he and Senator Dick Blumenthal. We'll have all that audio and a breakdown of all of that later on tomorrow as well. Of course, we're talking about the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre, as they call it. And the only point that I'm trying to make here, it's not up for debate. You can't get further away from it, change its name, and then expect everybody to just go along because it has to be called a massacre. Now, I want you to pay very close attention to this, okay? When you hear that desperation out of the left's mouth about calling it what they want to call it, and then you ask, why is it so important, and they can't articulate it? That's the problem, because they're hiding something. Language is important to them. Calling something is about something else. It's always been a riot until it became something they could use. Now, I'm going to say this again. Ignore it if you want. But you have to understand why this racial cudgel is what it is for 3 reasons: moral superiority, political advantage, and financial gain. That's all it's ever about. And it's always definitely 2 of them. Even if they can't get anything financial from it. The average schmo who reaps no reward from that financially has the other 2, political and moral superiority. Because again, calling the thing that they want, anything that you call otherwise, you get maligned for it, like being called a shock jock. I just can't call it what it's always been, a riot. It's absolutely dire you call it a massacre. Dire. Can't explain why. It's like asking the questions like, why do I have to call a transgender a woman? Because they are. Yeah, but why? Another check of weather and traffic. Mark Christopher's in the BPS Traffic Center. Hey. What's up, everybody? You know who it is.
You know who it is.
You know who it is. It's Reese on the radio. Frederick Douglass of the 21st century.
It's WTIC News Talk 1080.
By the way, before I forget, we've got Patrick Hicks on the program on Thursday at 4 o'clock. We'll be talking about September 11th. Of course, it'll be on September 11th. And we'll talk about an interesting thing that happened around the country when it came to music on that day. And he has a great piece that's on Instagram that you can check out. We'll promote that tomorrow as soon as I know exactly where you can find it. But he does this whole video about banned music that happened immediately after and how radio stations sort of decided not to play certain songs. Some groups had to change album covers and titles of their album because of the events on September 11th. So we'll talk to him about that. On language, before I get to the phone calls, let me play this real quick. And I always go back to this because it is an example of this whole argument about, well, you got to call it a massacre, and you can't tell why. It's simple. Ellen DeGeneres on Howard Stern. This is 2015, September 8th, 2015.
Caitlyn Jenner is on the show today, our first show, and she really does, she still has a judgment about gay marriage. She's saying that she's kind of, and I said, you're wanting people to understand and accept you. This is like really confusing to people. And you still have a judgment about gay people and marriage and like, and she goes,
crazy.
Well, she said, if the word marriage is that important, and I was like, it is, because that's the word. Like, we want the same thing, everybody.
Well, here's a...
So you say it's the word, and then she says we want the same thing. You can have the same thing. Why is the word so important? And because changing definitions is that because they understand language and words matter. Unless, of course, you catch them out there. when it comes to words matter, then it doesn't mean what do you think the word means? So it's always about flipping the script. I pay attention. Think about it now. What's the word that everybody's using with illegal immigration now? Disappearing people. Here's the thing I don't understand. They use the word disappearing people. But then when you call to ask, hey, did you find out where they took said person? They go, nope. Did you look? Did you check? No. So are they disappeared, or are you just too lazy to look up where they are? So by not doing the work, you can say whatever you want. They're disappearing people. Well, did you check with ICE to find out where they are? What happens when we do? We find out that they didn't disappear people. We find out that they're right here in the good old U.S. of A. Pending their due process. But they'll keep repeating the words disappearing people. And why? Well, unfortunately, they know that some people are lazy. And it definitely ain't us. But their folks are. They need to be spoon-fed everything. But then again, isn't that such is life with these folks? They do need everything spoon-fed to them. Their housing, their food, their livelihood. Everything. Why would you expect them to put any effort towards anything? Everything is given to them. They expect everything to be hand-delivered. Life is an Amazon Prime membership without the cost. That's what it is. Let's go to White Mike, calling from Florida. How are you, sir?
Man, I am so freaking angry. I can't even put into words how mad I am at this. Whoever this, flouncy dude who talks to you crying about Tulsa. That was 100 freaking years ago.
Yes.
We're undergoing a massacre of black criminals killing white people in this country every day.
And won't call it as such.
Say again?
And won't refer to it as such. In fact, completely sweeping under the rug.
And he doesn't care. I'm sure he doesn't also get his panties in a bunch about 58 Jamarcuses getting shot in Chicago on the weekend. Because that doesn't have any fit for him.
Not one bit.
So I saw the video of this girl getting stabbed. Well, first, I back up a little bit. You guys talked about liberal judges in this guy.
Yeah.
No, let's be specific. It wasn't liberal judges. It was black judges.
Yes.
Who let this guy out.
Yes.
Let's be real. This is not a liberal thing. This is a race thing. This is, I don't want to put one of my people in jail.
Right.
Especially if he victimizes white people. So let's get that nonsense straightened out right away.
Well, actually, don't remember, this is not just he. Remember, this judge also let him out even when he victimized his own family member, which shows exactly the apathy they have for their own people in the regards of taking care of their own.
And reports are that this judge also owns a counseling organization
that
counsels people instead of putting them in jail. So she's got a conflict of interest.
Sure.
But what gets me, dude, is I just watched the video of this stabbing on the train. What nobody's going to say, they said, oh, yeah, nobody wanted to help her. Everybody around who saw this happen was black. Every single one of them. They did nothing to help this white woman who got stabbed because they don't give a crap because she's white. That's it. It's racism. People act like black people can't be racist in this country. Well, that's nonsense.
But I mentioned something earlier, Mike. Hold on. I mentioned something earlier that I thought was nuanced and ignored. If you watch, as you did, you watched the video. That girl who came, again, just 3 years ago from Ukraine, you didn't see that woman hesitate at all to sit in front of that black man who would subsequently take her life. Like, she wasn't looking around all nervous, clutching her pearls in any way. She just sat there like it was a regular day.
Well, I wouldn't have sat in front of that dude and turned my back.
I would not have either.
Secondly, she had a BLM poster on her wall in her bedroom.
Yes.
This is just another brainwashed, stupid white girl who was taught by the media.
That's not fair. Come on, Mike.
Yeah, dude, of course she is.
No. First of all, you don't victim shame. Don't do that. Don't do that.
No, I'm not victim shaming. I'm just saying she was a stupid white girl who had no idea of the jungle she was in. That's not shaming. She was stupid.
What? Okay, so you're saying that she had been there for 3 years going back and forth and she had no incident? You don't think that she was ever concerned about her well-being?
Dude, who knows? Maybe she's so guilted about feeling like a racist.
Then let's not. Okay, so this is where this is exactly the problem. See, again, you're advancing a narrative about her just because that she, again, did not keep her head on a swivel, considered the neighborhood that she was in dangerous, and because she may have supported Black Lives Matter, that's not a reason to call her stupid. Naive, maybe.
Absolutely.
No,
Dude,
naive at
like,
best.
No, stupid. Because
how? Well, you don't even know her.
No, she had a BLM poster on her wall. She's a moron.
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. She's dumb. I'm just saying that part is ridiculous and it's semantics. I mean, not even semantics. It's just conjecture at best. Nobody knows what her mentality was. In my view, this is what I'm saying. In my view, as an individual, the woman goes on a light rail and she sits in front of this guy. Again, maybe you can look at this as like this wasn't the same as walking down a dark alley in a bad neighborhood. She was getting on a well-lit, clearly populated light rail train and sat down like any other day that she had probably done in her life. You can't call that stupid
Sure. If she walked into a cage full of rabid pit bulls wearing steak underwear, she'd be she's a moron.
That's not the same thing. That's not the same thing.
But anyway, so the solution to this is we have to start lobotomizing people. We have to, these people who are...
Lobotomy is a bit extreme, but go on. Go ahead. I'm listening.
They said this guy was schizophrenic, and they let him out, and everybody cries about mental health. It's always mental health. It's not just that he was a violent a-hole, right? But if he's crazy, let's put him in a room, let's put an ice pick in the corner of his eye, scramble his frontal lobe, and neuter him. If he's a drooling moron, he's not going to be killing people.
Yeah,
I thought
health,
we got to fix them.
Fix
them with lobotomy.
I thought that Greg Gutfeld made an impassioned point, and he's made this several times about incidents like these, especially when we saw in New York that, these homeless guys were pushing girls in front of subway cars, oncoming subway trains and things like that. And what he was noting was, and again, it is worth noting, that these guys knew. They keep talking about mental illness, but the people these individuals keep going after are people who cannot, if not would struggle, to defend themselves against a guy who's twice their size and weight. They always seem to go after women and people who are vulnerable. That's not a psychotic person.
No, it may not be that they're mentally ill. It may just be that these are people whose ultimate genetic max capacity was to be field hands, because they've got 80 Qs.
Where does that come from?
They've got
Mike,
IQs of 80.
This.
Hold
Go
on.
ahead.
If this guy's got an IQ of 80, you're expecting him to function in a world that's not set up for people with IQs of 80. He's gonna feel weird and freak out. If this guy had a nice job where he was, picking cotton or picking soybeans or something, and he had no stress of the modern world, this wouldn't happen. But you're taking a Stone Age person and telling them to function in a modern society, they're going to go crazy.
Well, why?
They can't do it.
Well, let me ask you this: you're talking about somebody who's a Stone Age mind in a modern country, right? Now, and with everyone talking about, in essence, mental illness in all of this, let me ask you this: you said lobotomy, and again, I'm not going to call it extreme. I'm just going, okay, I get where you're coming from, because the lobotomy sounds cruel. However, what would you have them do as far as facilities? Because, again, those things have to be paid for. How do you get those people in those facilities, and how is it funded?
I don't know. I don't care. We'll find a way. We have money for
Never thinking. You got to be thinking 2 steps ahead. Come on, Mike.
Dude, we have we have $200 million to give to Ukraine. We can fund some nut houses, and we can surely fund some electric convulsive therapy and fry their brains into submission. If we're not going to kill these people, which is ultimately what we should do, we should be thinning the herd and wiping these people out, just killing them.
You can't just do that until they... What are you saying, before they've committed a crime, Mike? Come on.
No, I'm thinking full Judge Dredd style. The first time you commit a violent crime in this country, we kill you. That's it.
Oh, no, okay. You're saying after... Okay. You're saying Judge Dredd after the crime. Okay, I thought you were just saying that because they have an 80 IQ. You got to be careful. People are going to be outraged at this convo.
No, the 80 IQ people, I'm okay with us sterilizing because they're not going to benefit the herd. But these violent people, it's time to kill them, man. They can't fix them. You can't fix these people.
Yeah, I don't...
We
Look.
Spend billions of dollars on them.
It's...
Ride the lightning, man.
I will... Listen, there is... And again, I totally appreciate the point of view that you're coming from. And when I say that, I'm talking about, even though it's sometimes you kind of look at it and just go, Jesus Christ, man, this is just so harsh. Forgive me for using JC. But you kind of listen to that and you just go, ugh. But to a degree, to 1 or 2 degrees, I can understand where you're coming from, because it is out of frustration. And on the other hand, you have to ask yourself, how many lives is enough before you do something?
I just had an idea. I have an idea how to fund it. Absolutely. We need to increase executions and hold raffles to raffle off the opportunity to throw the switch.
I'm done with you. I can't with you anymore.
You put $100, can you throw the switch on a pedophile? Absolutely. Who wouldn't sign up for that? Hell, let's make it firing squad and let me shoot him. I don't care.
Yeah. Okay. So again, even though you're frustrated, which I clearly see, you have a couple of radical ideas.
No, it's not frustration. It's hatred. I embrace that word. I hate these people. I hate these scumbags who victimize innocent people. I feel it's terrible. This pretty white woman was fed a mind full of crap. If she'd been a little bit racist, she'd be alive today.
That's a hell of a statement. Now listen, you know what? I go back to Jesse Jackson and remember how he was even later, like when he said it, no one batted an eye. But many years later, he was berated about it when he said that when he's walking down the street and he sees a couple of hooded African-American kids, he crosses the street. And they waited almost 10 years before they went after him for that, for even saying it. But, you know, and like Juan Williams, when he got fired from NPR for saying that when he's on a plane, you know, after September 11th, about how he feels uneasy when Muslims are on a plane. He got so much backlash for that. As much as I know that they're controversial, I totally get what you're saying, but and again, I don't want to be the person that says, well, we have to have a much more measured approach. I get it. The frustration, because again, there was so much overcorrecting in all of this that right now we're putting lives in danger. And, you know,
it's time for any violent crime committed by a black person against a white person to be hit with federal hate crime charges. Judges let these people out, need to face some penalty. And if I'd been on that train, I'm not saying I'd have saved that girl's life because you probably couldn't, but he wouldn't have drawn breath after that. I'd have killed that son of a bee.
Yeah, I hear you, boss. We got to go. Thank you. As I always say, radio is free, so we thank you for paying attention. Remember to keep JC in your hearts and in your minds. Sean Patrick, we love you and we miss you. Remember that panic is not planning, so plan your work and work your plan. Me, I'm Reese on the radio. Send your complaints to ReeseOnTheRadio.com. You have a good night and a pleasant tomorrow. We'll see you back here next time. As I used to say, if there is a next time. Let's get to Mark Christopher. He's at the BPS Traffic Center. How we doing, sir?
All right, Reese, thank you very much. Well, if you're 91 northbound, look for some delays, 27 up to 29 for the Charter Oak Bridge. Southbound.
All right.
32 A and B. And then again,
Mike is
a little bit as you move down by exit 28 on the Hartford Weathersfield line west.
Yeah, he is.
Bridge,
all right, buddy. I will see you manana. Yeah, he's a maniac.
46 and 48 Capitol Avenue.
I'll see you manana.
Hump day.
2 westbound slowing as you merge with 84 West in East.
Oh, now I got to see whether or not I'm going to hear some. What is it? That's so funny. After yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, as always, Lori, thank you. All right, I'm going to figure out whatever this problem is with the regular Facebook page. All right? You guys be good to each other, and we'll see you mañana. Stay out of trouble.